Hi, reading friends. Welcome to reading today. Today is day 2 of reading, and today should be Tuesday, September 15th. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited to be going over some of the words we read yesterday and some of the stories, but also bringing some new information to you as well. So thanks for being here. If you remember yesterday, can you remember what we talked about yesterday in reading? We talked about somewhere you guys go a lot, and I might be there right now. We're talking about school and school starting and things about school and things that we do in school. If you remember yesterday, we read a super silly story called "This Will Be the Best School Year Ever." And it was pretty silly about all the things that they were wishing for in their new school year. And we're going to keep reading today some more. So I want to go over some of the words we talked about yesterday, especially some of these long ones that are kind of tricky. So the first word I want to review is recognize. Okay, remember recognizing is if you have seen something before, it's like you're noticing it and you can remember it. So remember his mask right there. They don't recognize him because they've never seen that mask before. Another word I want to talk about is common. So common means things that we are used to seeing or things that are ordinary or normal. So it is now common for you to get on YouTube and to watch our reading lessons and our math lessons. And then the last word we're going to talk about today one more time is object. So object is a thing. So remember, she's putting an object, which is a notebook, into her backpack. So she has an object. If I come in and out of the camera, don't worry. I'm just grabbing cool things to show you guys. All right. So today, guys, we're going to talk about visualizing. Whoa, visualizing is a big, big word. But what visualizing means, I guess I just said that twice. Sorry. But what it means is like putting a picture in your head. Okay, so when we read that story yesterday and they talked about making water fountains out of chocolate, could you visualize or could you picture that in your mind happening? Sometimes when we can picture the things that are happening in a story, when we can picture those in our mind, it helps us remember the story better. So I kind of put like a little thinking bubble up here. So when you're listening to a story or you're reading a story, you should always kind of be like trying to picture it in your mind or thinking about it and what it looks like, because that will help you remember. And that's called visualizing. Can you say visualizing with me? Visualizing. That means making a picture of what's happening in a story in your mind. And it can be kind of your version of what you think's happening because everybody thinks something's different. So what I'm going to share with you guys today is some information about schools around the world. So we know how our school is, but there's schools around the world that do school a lot different than us, okay? So as I'm reading these cards, I want you to stop and think and kind of try to like picture it in your mind. What would that look like if that was here or if we did school like that? Or like, can you imagine if you were at that school? Could you picture yourself at that school? Okay. So schools around the world. Can you see my picture okay? What is it like to go to school in another country? How is it the same as going to school in our country? How is it different? Children go to school to learn. That is true all around the world. In many ways, schools everywhere are alike. Children learn from teachers. They learn how to read and write. They learn math, but school is different in some ways for children in other parts of the world. Kids may get to school in a different way. Walking and riding a bus are common ways to get to school in the United States. Hey, we talked about common, which means that's normal, is to take a school bus. But in other places, children may take a boat to and from school. Lake Titicaca, that's a really big word, in Peru is one of those places. The children in this picture live on the islands in the lake. Several of the islands have schools. The children take a boat from one island to another to get to school. At the end of the day, the children take the boat back home again. Wow. So what are you picturing in your mind right now? Can you imagine getting on a boat in the morning to go to school? And then when you come home, instead of hopping on the bus, you hopped on a boat. Wow. Very cool. Writing is one of the most important subjects or things that we learn, that kids learn in school. The words we write are made up of letters. Our English alphabet has 26 letters. In China, children learn a special kind of writing called calligraphy. That means beautiful writing. The children write using a brush and ink, but they don't make letters. Instead, they make marks called characters. A character stands for a part of a word or a whole word. The girl in the picture practices writing characters. There are many characters in the Chinese language. Some Chinese people can write about 4,000 characters. How do children learn to write all of those characters? First, they learn to make the lines in each character, and then they practice writing them. So as you can see, she's kind of painting. Can you imagine when I went to ask you to write your ABCs that you would be painting and making them look like that? And that you didn't have 26 to learn, but you could have up to 4,000 that you could learn. Wow. Can you picture that in your mind right now? Having to know all of those characters? Pretty cool. Another important subject in school is math, the study of numbers. No one knows exactly when the first math ideas were invented. Long ago, people started counting on their fingers or by making marks on the ground. Some early people used small objects to help them count. The objects were made from clay. The shape of the object meant a number. A stick shape might be 1. A round pebble shape might be 10. Children today still use objects to help them count. The children in this picture are using signs to help them count by tens. Their school is in Uganda. The children are holding signs with numbers written on them, and then they will arrange themselves so that the numbers are in the proper order. The numbers on the blackboard go up to 50. This helps the children see how counting by tens helps you get to bigger numbers. So as you can see, they're going to put themselves in order. They've been practicing their numbers up here, and then they're going to help themselves count. So they're going to put them in order. Wow. Can you imagine school? I know we haven't really had school without an iPad or without a whiteboard to use and to be able to write on, or a smart board behind me. Think about if you had to do it with just paper or with just one chalkboard. You know, I'm thinking about what it would look like if our school looked like that. It'd be very interesting. All right, and last but not least, here's this cool picture. All around the world, recess is a favorite part of the school day. Recess gives children a break from work. They can move around and have fun. Children who have recess breaks study better and learn more. In warm places, children can go outdoors for recess most of the time. The children in the big picture go to school in northern Vietnam. They like to play on a swing at recess. The swing is made of a long piece of wood. 2 children can sit on it while other children push the swing. When it's too cold to go outside for recess, the answer to that question depends on where the kids live. Teachers recognize, so that means they know, how important recess is. They think about what their students are used to and how comfortable they will be outdoors. Children in Alaska are used to cold weather. In many schools in Alaska, if the air is warmer than 20 degrees below zero, then recess is outside. The kids in the smaller picture live in Alaska. They're playing basketball in the snow. What? Look at that. It's absolutely frozen and they're outside playing basketball compared to these kids who are playing on the swing. Huh. What's our area like? I know it's different right now because we actually don't have outside recess. So teachers are finding different ways to have recess inside their classroom. But usually when we can't have recess, we get kind of a mix of both because we get to play outside for part of the year, and then the other part of the year we have to watch the temperature and see how cold it is outside to play. But it definitely does not get as cold as in Alaska. 20 below zero, we would probably cancel school if it was 20 below zero, the actual temperature. They're outside and they're like, oh, it's warm enough outside today. Let's go play. Isn't that crazy? Are you picturing that in your mind? What if you lived in Alaska and had to go outside for recess in 20 degrees below zero? Wow. I'll tell you what, after I picture myself doing that, I remember my story a little bit more because that would be very, very different. Wow. So that's all about schools around the world. Do they look different than our school? Yeah, they do look different than our school. Maybe they are trying new ways. Maybe we should do things like them. Maybe they want to do things like us. Who knows? It's pretty cool, though, how everybody, no matter what kind of classroom they're in, everybody is learning something new each day and learning about the world, which is awesome. Okay, so I showed you those pictures of those classrooms. I want to know, in your mind, what classroom would you like to be a part of? Which one would you like to go explore and to learn more about? Okay, there were so many cool different classrooms that you would get to be a part of. Which one in your mind are you thinking would be the one I would want to try myself? Maybe it's going to school on a boat. Maybe it's writing calligraphy. Maybe it's having recess in the tundra. Maybe it's using chalkboards and having class outdoors and being outside. Okay, go ahead and tell me, what kind of school would you like to be in? Awesome. I think they would all be really cool to try. I think traveling by boat would be pretty amazing, but also kind of going back and like using ourselves and nature to help us learn would be really cool too. So they all seem really interesting to me. So yesterday we read the story about Jack, and I forgot to tell you what book to get out. How silly am I? So we're getting your small reading book out. It says Reading and Writing Workshop on it, and it's your Wonders book. And we're on page 14, and we're going to reread the story Jack Can. We read it yesterday, and we're going to read it again today, but we're going to be looking for some new things today, okay? So get that out. All right, so hopefully you have your Jack Can book ready. And hopefully you're ready to follow along with me because we're going to reread it today. So let's look at the question again that it asked us. What do you do at your school? Read about what friends can do at school. Okay? We already talked about yesterday some things that you like to do at school or maybe things that you want to learn at school. Can you tell me something that you remember from school or something you want to learn about at school this year? Ooh, I hear some really good responses. All right, we're on page 16 now. We're on our first page, okay? I'm going to try to correctly navigate the camera. The camera actually moves backwards of me, so it's kind of silly. All right, here's our first page. Max can. Okay, Max can. Can Jack? Jack can. Okay, so they're both doing the same thing. Max can. Can Jack? Max is writing on his poster. Jack can not. Or Jack. Jack is sad. What does Nan do? Okay, he's sad over there. What's she bringing? Tell me right now if you can remember. We read it yesterday. Tell me if you remember what she's going to do with the stool. Nan helps Jack. Jack likes school. Look how happy he is. She helped him, right? The end. What a good story. Every time I read it, it just makes me really happy to hear it. So yesterday we talked about details or things that make a story important, little events that happen that go together to make a story happen. So we're going to talk today about some of those little details that kind of make this story, okay? So overall, though, what's the main idea of the story? Like, what's the story about? Is it about Jack who can't do things? Kind of. I mean, he can't do things, but what's it really about? What happened at the end of the story? his friend Nan helped him out, right? So the moral of the story was when you're struggling and you're sad, being a good friend can always change somebody's day and make them feel better or make a whole situation that they were really mad about a good one. That friends can help change the world. Okay? That's kind of what the story is about. So this story is actually called a realistic fiction. Another big word. Let me write realistic fiction on the board. And I'll change the scenery. You've been looking at me in the same place for a while. Okay, so I'm going to put in my little think bubble here since I got some space. Realistic fiction. Wow. What that means, so the word realistic is kind of what you think. Realistic means it's something that really could happen. It is like a normal day. It's like something that could happen. And then fiction means that it is a made-up story, okay? When something is nonfiction, fiction means fake or made up. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but it is a story that an author wrote. When it's nonfiction, that means that is a true story based off of facts. This is a realistic fiction. So this is a story that was made up by an author, but it's realistic, which means this is a story that could happen in real life. It just hasn't happened yet. This author made that story, but it could happen because it is realistic and there are things that really could happen in real life. So I want you to look back at our story, and we're going to try to pick out three details that we think help give us an idea of what happened in this story, okay? So I'm going to look at the beginning. Max can. Can Jack? Jack can. Okay? So what's something, is that a fact? Could we share something about that? Think about it. How could you phrase that? What is that a detail? Like, what is that picture telling us? Look at this picture. What's this picture telling us? I kind of look at his face and look how he's looking at his friend Max. He is really excited to be like Max. He wants to paint like Max. So I think our first detail could be Jack wants to do what Max is doing, right? Jack wants to do what Max is doing. That's a detail. That's something that's happening. Jack wants to do what Max is doing, okay? So as we look farther into our story, we go to the next page where we figure out that Max can write on it and Jack can't. Jack is sad because of it. So what's kind of the next thing that's happening? Jack wants to do what Max is doing. Now Jack can't, right? What can Jack not reach? Jack can't reach the poster. He is what? He is sad. Okay, so that's something that happened too. He can't reach the poster. He's sad. That's a detail. That's something that happened in our story. Now, if we go to the next page, this is where he gets really happy. What does his friend Nan do? Nan helps him. And what happens because she helps him? Look at how happy he is. Can you read that last page? Jack likes school. She changed his whole day. So the last detail that happened was Nan helped Jack He was so happy, wasn't he? He was so happy. So those are 3 details that I picked out of that story, is that Jack wants to do what Max is doing. Jack can't reach the poster, so he gets sad. But then at the end, Nan helped Jack, so he got happy. Do you agree? I think that looks pretty good. And this was our realistic fiction about Jack Can. So a story where he was pretty frustrated and he ended up pretty happy. So I know that these first 2 days of reading are a lot of reading, and as reading should be. We don't have too much work for you to do after watching this video. Tomorrow, we're going to have some papers for you to help me pick out some details, and you're going to write them with me. But today, we're just talking about schools around the world. We're going over Jack Can, and we're just talking about all things reading. So thank you for listening to my story. I hope you have a favorite part of the story, Jack Can. If you do, tell me right now, what was your favorite part of the story of Jack Can? I know mine was when Nan helped him out and then he got happy and loved school. That's my favorite part. So if you have any questions, please let your teacher know. But thank you so much for joining me for reading today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!